Hey everyone, my name is Mars, like the planet, and this is Housewarming. Today I'm here with one of my mini pothos, and it has a few yellow leaves because it has been overwatered. Now, if you have a pothos like mine and you are seeing yellow leaves like this one, if you are seeing some of the leaves starting to turn yellow, it is because unfortunately your pothos has been overwatered. But fear not, there is a way to save your pothos. Today I'm going to go over some things that you can do if you've overwatered your pothos and what I'm going to be doing today to save this. So let's go ahead and get into the video. So I have my pothos here. Your pothos may be bigger or smaller than mine. Pothos are super easy to care for houseplants. Pothos are really popular houseplants, but unfortunately they are susceptible to being overwatered. You really want to be careful with the type of pot that you have. If you have a really small pot, you want to make sure that your pothos is not getting overwatered. If you have a ton of water sitting in the saucer after you water it, you're really risking overwatering your pothos. So like I said, the main sign that your pothos is overwatered is yellow leaves. The leaves are going to start turning yellow and falling off and dying. So what can we do to stop that? First of all, you want to stop watering your pothos. I know that seems like common sense, but most people may see yellow leaves just like this one and think, oh my God, my pothos is dying. Let me give it some more water. Do not give it any more water. We're going to stop watering it for now. The next thing we're going to do is to dry out the soil as quickly as possible. And there are many ways that you can achieve that. In order to dry out the soil, we want to make sure we're getting air down into the roots, or we're getting that moisture out from the soil and around the roots. One thing you can do is to poke holes in the soil. That's going to allow air to get into the roots and allow that extra moisture to go ahead and evaporate out. I've even seen people on Reddit suggest sticking a tampon into your soil. So if you have a tampon, you could try that as well. So sticking holes into the soil is a way to get air down into the roots and once again, start to dry this plant out. Another thing we want to make sure is that our plant is not sitting in water. I have this pothos here in a plastic saucer. You want to make sure if there's water in here that you pour it out. You really want to make sure that your plant is not sitting in water at all. Go ahead and pour this out. Another thing you can do if you don't want to poke holes in the soil is to sit it in a sunny location. So you can sit it by a window, or you can even sit it outside when you go to work. So for example, this pothos was quite wet. So when I went to work in the morning, I went ahead and just set it on a ledge outside. Like I said, you can put this by a sunny window, but you want to make sure it's not getting direct sunlight because that can burn the leaves and we really don't want to do more damage than we've already done. So we poked holes in the soil, we maybe stuck a tampon in it, we've set it outside, and we've set it by a window. What's another thing that we can do? One other thing we can do to create airflow is to put it by a fan. If you have a fan that you run at night, you can sit your plant by it while you're sleeping. Or if you have a ceiling fan that stays on, you can also put it in the area. Once again, we want to have airflow. We want to get that moisture out of there. So after you've tried all these things, if your plant is still not recovering, first of all, give it some time. It's going to take some time for your plant to go ahead and stop freaking out. After you've tried one or a few of those things and it's still not working, you may need to go ahead and repot your pothos in new soil. If you have potting mix, you may want to go ahead and remove it from its pot. You can knock off the wet soil and then go ahead and place it into some new, dry, fresh soil. The last thing you can do if your plant is really worse for wear and not recovering is to go ahead and abandon ship and propagate. So I'm going to show you a few of those methods today and what I'm going to do to save this plant specifically. So I brought you guys in a little bit closer and I just started to notice the yellowing on the leaves this week after I watered. You can see a yellow leaf right here. And you can see another one right here. Now, unfortunately, these yellow leaves are not going to turn back green. Anything that you can do to save this plant, it's not going to involve these leaves turning back green. These leaves are going to die and fall off. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove all of the yellow leaves that I see. These mostly just pop off by themselves, but you can just take a pair of sharp, clean scissors and cut them off yourself. So this is another one that I can pop off. You can see what those look like. This is another one that came off. So I'm just going to make sure that all the yellow leaves that are starting to pop up are removed. Here's another one that came off. And then here you can see what the soil is looking like. I've went ahead and removed all of the soil out of the saucer, but you can see that the soil is still a little moist. So I'm going to go ahead and use the first trick I mentioned. I'm going to take the end of a chopstick and I'm going to go ahead and poke holes into the soil. I'm just going to go around the soil. I can feel a little bit of roots, but I'm just going to get right in there and poke all the way down to the bottom. Now, once again, like I said, this is going to increase airflow and just get some air down into those roots. Now that I've poked holes in the soil, the next thing I'm gonna do is actually, when I go to work each day, I'm gonna leave this outside until I feel like the soil has dried up. This soil is still pretty damp. You can see how dark it is. So each day I'm gonna sit it outside, let it air out, and let it dry out. The last two things that I'm going to do if this fails is I'm going to repot this into a bigger pot. And I'm gonna show you that right now. Okay, so I went out to my shed and got some potting mix. This is just the Miracle Grow potting mix right here. You want to make sure you're getting potting mix and not potting soil. I have my plant here, obviously, and then I have the new pot I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Honestly, if your plant is overwatered and you are repotting it, you can't keep it in the same pot. Just remember, this process is a bit messy because you are dealing with wet soil and dirt. So you may want to do this outside. I'm obviously doing it on my table just because I'm filming this video for you guys, but typically I would do this outside. So I have my empty pot right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and pour my soil into here. I'm going to try not to make a mess. So I have some soil in the bottom of our new pot, just like this. And then I'm going to carefully remove this from this container. Remember, this soil is wet, so it may fall apart, it may make a mess, so you just want to be prepared for that. And like I said, I have a pretty large plant, so I just want to be careful not to disrupt the roots. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of squeeze the sides a little bit, just kind of massage it out. And I'm going to start to slowly turn this plant out. Once again, this is not necessary. You can just do the steps that we talked about earlier. Oh, okay. Look how the roots are. This plant does actually need to be repotted into a bigger pot, but I will do that at a different time. You can see the roots are still healthy. They are nice and white. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it in our new dry soil. Okay, so good news, I actually did find a larger pot to put this in. While I am making a mess, I might as well just go ahead and repot this correctly. So let me just undo what I did. Once again, I'm just going to turn this plant out. I'm going to put some soil at the bottom. I'm gonna tuck this in. Kind of press it a bit, and then I'll put the remaining soil. Let me bring it in a little closer. And then I'm going to put the remaining soil on top. Now, once again, this is dry soil, so that should help our waterlogged plant dry out quite a bit. And so there we go. We got to kill two birds with one stone. I was able to get this into a bigger pot, which has been meaning to, and I got it out of its wet home. Now, lastly, like I said, if you have to abandon ship and go ahead and just say that the plant is dead and it's not going to recover, you can go ahead and propagate your plant. Obviously, my plant is still very healthy, but I am going to show you how to propagate your plant. So when I am taking a cutting for propagation, I'm going to go ahead and take one of the leaves and I'm going to make a cut. So now that I have my cutting, we can just place this in water and roots will start to grow. You can see right here, these are where the roots are going to come out. These two little brown dots right here are called nodes, and that's where the roots are going to grow. So I'm going to show you what it looks like after you've set one of these cuttings in water for a few weeks. So here you can see one of my examples. This is a propagation that I have. And if I take it out, you can see where some beautiful, healthy white roots have started to grow. One grew out of a node right here, and then we have another root right here. Now this is perfectly ready to go in the soil. I'm still enjoying it in its glass vase right here, but this is perfectly fine to go in the soil. You can see beautiful, healthy white roots. So when they get to be about this long, you can go ahead and pot them up back in some new soil and start all over again. Once again, remember not to overwater this and just keep it moist in the soil. You don't want this to dry out. It's so used to being in water that just popping this down in soil and not watering it is going to probably kill your cutting. So you do want to make sure you're keeping the soil moist, but not soaking wet, because you don't want to start this whole process all over again of killing your plant because you overwatered it. So those are all of the ways you can save your pothos if it's been overwatered. You can aerate the soil, you can put it in sunlight, you can take a propagation, or you can go ahead and repot it. Pothos are honestly really forgiving plants. They will rejuvenate and come back. So just give it some time. Don't panic. I know it looks like, it's the worst thing in the world and the plant is dying. And honestly, if it does, you can just take a couple cuttings and start over again. But they are pretty forgiving plants. So I do hope that these tips helped you. I post new videos every single Wednesday. And if you're interested in seeing my full houseplant tour, I will have it linked down below. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.